All right, it looks like we are live. Hey everyone, it's Kevin, the Apptrepreneur, and format's going to look a little different today. First of all, as you can see, I really need a haircut. Like this is what months of being in quarantine actually looks like. Also, not in the LA County anymore. I'm somewhere else, so different scenery. I'm not wearing the beanie because, frankly, it's really, really hot where I'm at, and at one point you got to go like, screw the look. You got to go with comfortable. I don't want to get a heat stroke or anything like that. So I said when we were taking the little mini break from the daily grind of the Uber news and stuff and other news stories, I had made some pre-made videos that were a little bit more lighthearted in nature, a little bit more fun. Hopefully the very, very, very few people who've been watching them have been enjoying them. I especially like the Papa John video, just, throwing that out there if you haven't watched it. But that said, a lot of things have happened in, the gig economy world and in the technology world. I actually kind of I had three things I wanted to talk about, one of which I'm going to save for its own video because I think it deserves its own video. Some might be saying, well, why doesn't this topic deserve its own video? It kind of does, but I kind of want to just throw out this quick little news story before we get to the main topic about Grubhub. Also, to give people a chance to kind of come into the chat and everything like that. So, Grubhub has two new potential buyers: Just Eat Takeaway and Delivery Hero. Now, you might have last heard, and we've last discussed, Uber was considering buying. Um, they were considering buying Grubhub. Hey, Andrew, how you doing? But right now, that's got some regulators caught up in a little bit of a tizzy. They don't like how much power that could potentially give Uber. It could create a monopoly in some areas, violate some antitrust laws. So regulators are not too crazy about that one. But knowing that Grubhub is up for sale and that the government has issues with Uber buying it has led to these two companies putting offers forward. So, as CNBC writes, Grubhub is fielding interest from at least two European food delivery companies as antitrust concerns have clouded the chances of an Uber acquisition, according to people familiar with the matter. Netherlands-based JustEatTakeaway.com and German company Delivery Hero have expressed interest in merging with Grubhub, according to people familiar with the matter, who asked not to be named because discussions are private. As a result, shares of Grubhub were up 8%, although I have to say, a lot of my shares are up today. I looked at my Robinhood app and it was like, oh boy, stock's doing really good today. So, the spokespeople for all these companies declined to comment, but it's already suspected that with this deal, it would be much easier to push through. Neither of those companies have like a super strong presence in the United States, but globally it gives them edge. So the government is unlikely to care that much. And of course, it keeps Grubhub out of Uber's hands, which, from what I'm listening to my viewers, they will definitely prefer that. Hey, Dustin, how you doing? Yeah, Robinhood is on fire today. So I just wanted to quickly mention that before we talked about this rather this semi-long and, as usual, rather insulting email from Uber. And before we begin with reading this email, I just need to make some things absolutely clear, just so that we don't have to hear about it later. I obviously am upset about what happened to George Floyd and everything. While I'm concerned about the protest because of, the C virus, I am very much in favor of peaceful protests, and I am very much in favor of police reform. I think that needs to definitely be looked at and changed in all of this. I have no problem with companies voicing support for the black community. No issues whatsoever about that. Do I believe most of them are being sincere when they do it? Not particularly. I think companies will write what they feel will make them look good during these times, and then they'll throw in like pennies towards a cause to show that they're in for the fight. And then you won't hear them actually make any substantial changes, like, promoting minorities to higher positions of power or anything like that. So, but on principle, I have no issue with companies supporting these causes. They're free to do with their platform and their money what they want, and supporting the Black community is a very, very positive thing. And really, we should have been supporting them much better throughout all this, and now is a great time to listen and to help them. That said, and I've got something in my eyes, I'm sorry about that, folks. This is Uber we're talking about. I can't trust Uber as far as I can spit. Whenever I get anything from them, I'm always looking at what's the angle, and how are they not doing what they say they want to do. And this email is a pretty good example of that. So then, I was hoping we'd have more than a dozen people here, but it's Friday afternoon, so it's kind of one of those things. But we've given people a chance to come in, so it's been 6 minutes. Let's first read this email all the way through. No breaks, no commentary. We're just going to read it through. And then I'm going to, of course, comment on certain aspects of this. So, it says, Kevin, it's okay. One comment before we start. Whenever you're writing an email about a sensitive topic and you want compassion, I always find it strange when you don't start the email, "Dear so and so." Instead, it's just Kevin. That's how it reads. Like an exasperated. Always put "dear" before the name if you want a little compassion. All right. Let me start by saying I wish I never had to send this email. I wish that the lives of George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and countless others weren't so violently cut short. I wish that institutional racism and the police violence it gives rise to didn't cause their deaths. I wish that all members of our Black community felt safe enough to move around their cities without fear. I wish that I didn't have to try to find the words to explain all of this to my 2 young sons. But I've been given hope this week by hundreds of thousands of peaceful protesters demanding change. I'm committed to being part of that change. As a company, we believe that everyone has the right to move freely, no matter where they live or the color of their skin. We're proud of how Uber has helped improve transportation equality over the last decade. But the reality remains that Black Americans often don't feel safe to move freely in many places around our country, and they still face enormous barriers that others do not. This is a reality we should not perpetuate or accept. We must do better. We know there is no easy solution to the problems we have faced for centuries. We also know that we need to devote our time, energy, and resources towards making a difference. That's why we're making a number of commitments that we will uphold, not just this week, but for years to come. 1, we are committed to driving lasting change through criminal justice reform. On Sunday, we announced a $1 million donation to the Equal Justice Initiative and Center for Policing Equity to support their important work in making racial justice in America more than just a promise. 2, we are committed to creating a community that treats everyone equally and with dignity. We do not tolerate discrimination, harassment, or racism on our platform, as outlined in our community guidelines. We will hold everyone who uses Uber accountable to these standards of basic respect and human decency. I respectfully ask anyone not willing to abide by these rules to delete Uber. I'm really holding back my comment on that one. 3, we are committed to supporting the Black community. As a starting point, We will use Uber Eats to promote black-owned restaurants while making it easier for you to support them. With no delivery fees for the remainder of the year and in the coming weeks, we will offer discounted rides to black-owned small businesses who have been hit hard by the C virus pandemic to help in their recovery. 4. We are committed to making Uber a diverse and inclusive place for people of color to work and thrive. While we have more work to do, we have tied our senior executive pay to measurable progress on our diversity goals and will continue to publish data on our workforce so the public can hold us accountable. We're also committed to expanding opportunities for drivers and delivery people, including through education opportunities and skills training. We know this isn't enough. It won't be enough until we see true racial justice. But we plan to work day in and day out to improve, learn, and grow as a company. Lastly, let me speak clearly and unequivocally. Black Lives Matter. Dara Khosrowshahi, CEO. So, there's a lot to unpack in that email. Although I will state right from the get-go, one thing I definitely agree with is that this is not enough. And it won't be enough, but I don't... Uber is not one of the places I'm going to look for racial justice reform, nor do I believe they are going to do anything remotely helpful in the argument. Again, I'm not saying as I stated earlier, I'm not saying my issue is that they're supporting Black Lives Matter or the black community. That's perfectly fine. What I do not think is that they are doing it sincerely, because several things that they've said here, I have issues with. Of course I do, because I always do. But now, let's go through this again. And now we are going to be adding my commentary, because this is what I do. So it says, Kevin, jeez, you can't, I'll help you out here. Dear Kevin, let me start by saying I wish I never had to send this email. I wish you didn't have to send it either. I wish that the lives of George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and countless others weren't so violently cut short. I agree. I wish that as well. I wish that institutional racism and the police violence it gives rise to didn't cause their deaths. I agree. I wish that wasn't the case as well. I wish that all members of our black community felt safe enough to move around their cities without fear. I agree. I wish that I didn't have to try to find the words to explain this to my young sons. I sort of agree. I mean, of course, that's a personal thing, but the reality is like, rough truths and rough discussions do have to come up, and so while I'm sad that you don't have that you have to explain this, I'm not upset that you have to, because that's where kids learn. It's good to have these conversations with our kids. But I've given hope this week by hundreds of thousands of peaceful protesters demanding change. I'm committed to being part of that change. So this is where the letter is obviously going to start derailing a little bit, because here's the thing that you have to keep in mind. This is Dara Khosrowshahi. This man has not defended the drivers, many of whom are black. He has not reformed Uber, the company, to be more fair towards drivers, which he was hired in hopes of doing. He does not listen to the driver community at all. One of his first major acts as CEO for the drivers, after years of saying, what do we want? We want a raise rate. We want this. We want no deactivations for false reports. We want we want to feel more like independent contractors, not like employees. We want benefits. This is the man who not only argued against all of that, but his first major announcement was a new app, which granted is nice. And in fact, after having used it, I will say it works way better than the original app, but no one was asking for it. That wasn't anyone's big concern. And this is the man that has promised to be committed to part of being the change for the black community when he can't follow up his commitment to be a change in the driver community or his own company. So that's where we're going to have to keep this all into perspective as we read this letter. So, this is going to be fun. As a company, we believe that everyone has the right to move freely, no matter where they live or the color of their skin. Now, I'm assuming that means that, that's kind of like a play on their service. Like, oh yeah, you see, we move. Like, you can call a ride. Of course, a lot of the drivers who drive don't feel like they can move freely. They find that there's only certain cars they can use. They find that there's a bunch of things they can't talk about. They are encouraged to do things or not to do things. If a customer complains about a decoration in that person's car, Uber will take action. So, yeah, I don't know. Move freely. I mean, it's cute as like a marketing gimmick. Like, oh yeah, Uber, we move freely. But like our drivers, many of whom I should say are black, don't have that freedom, so to speak. So, strike one. We're proud of Uber and of how Uber has helped improve transportation equally over the last decade. I don't know exactly what this means, to be perfectly honest. Yeah, it made getting a taxi more convenient, but then it also, cluttered our freeways and our highways and heightened traffic and added to the growing global warming problem. So I don't know if that's something to brag about. And when they say has improved transportation equity, I mean, okay, I guess you evenly made everything just a little bit worse in some regard. I don't know if that's something I'd be proud about. But the reality remains that black Americans often don't feel safe to move freely in many places around our country, and they still face enormous barriers that others do not. I agree with this, and I have no complaint with this being pointed out. This is a reality we should not perpetuate or accept. We must do better. Again, totally agree with this. We know there is no easy solution to the problems we have faced for centuries. We also know that we need to devote our time, energy, and resources towards making a difference. That's why we're making a number of commitments that we will uphold, not just this week, but for years to come. And this is where we're supposed to be, yay, good for you, Uber. But when you read these things, it definitely, just in my opinion, maybe you feel differently. Maybe we can discuss this afterwards, but this feels like lip service. So, first of all, remember how I said earlier that with most of these companies, they will make like a petty little contribution to like an organization to show that they were in the fight. That's the first thing Uber committed to. We are committed to driving lasting change through criminal justice reform. On Sunday, we announced a $1 million donation to the Equal Justice Initiative and Center for Policing Equity to support their important work in making racial justice in America more than just a promise. Now, here's the thing. I don't want to poo-poo the gift too much. Any gift is nice. But, Uber has bragged they have $10 billion on hand. They could probably afford to give more than $1 million. But they just gave one. And yeah, okay, it's nice that you made this contribution, but there's like McDonald's has given more, Disney has given more, I think I think Slack has given more. Uber could give more, and since their company deals more with the black community than most companies I can think of, we're talking about passengers, drivers, things like that. It seems like they would want to help a little more. But hey, $1 million, I guess that's what they're giving. Now then, they say, we are committed to creating a community that treats everyone equally and with dignity. I'm going to pause for a second and say, yes, they do. They treat everyone as scummy everyone's treated like dirt at Uber. Doesn't matter if you're black, white, Asian, yellow, purple. It doesn't matter if you've got shades of Barney the dinosaur in you. They treat you like dirt, like scum of the earth. They do not care about you. So when they say we are committed to creating a community that treats everyone equally and with dignity, I've seen what Uber's perception of equal and dignity actually looks like, and it's not good. It is not good. They say we do not tolerate discrimination, harassment, or racism on the platform as outlined in our community guidelines. Well, they say they don't, and yet we've seen many situations where Uber actually lets this stuff slide when it comes to the drivers and the passenger. Well, especially, let me say this. Okay, if you are the driver, then Uber probably has a little bit less tolerance for this, but we have seen situations where passengers have been racist and mean and abusive to their drivers. And Uber will not comment whether or not those people are suspended or kicked off the platform. It's never that way with the drivers. The drivers, it doesn't matter, again, what your ethnicity is, Uber will always, if they hear a complaint about the driver, they will do what they have to get that driver off the platform. When it comes to the riders, they never do that. So, when they say we do not tolerate discrimination, harassment, or racism on our platform, as outlined in the community guidelines, we know that's horse donkey, because they absolutely do tolerate it. It just depends who it is. If it's a driver, no tolerance for it. If it's a rider, they will tolerate all these things. Now, maybe they are serious, maybe they will not tolerate it going from this point forward, but it does go to show that this was never that big of an issue with them. And if you want examples, Driving with Dustin has plenty of video footage of passengers being horribly racist and abusive to their drivers. And, the punchline is when you look up the article that tracks that person down, the driver normally got deactivated, not the passenger. They say we will hold everyone who uses Uber accountable to these standards of basic respect and human decency, which, for the reasons I just discussed, I don't believe. Now, I had to hold back laughter when I read this. I respectfully ask anyone not willing to abide by these rules to delete Uber. We finally got Uber to say that. Not for the reason I wanted. I wanted to be towards change of, better treatment for drivers. But hey, Dar Khosrow Shahi finally asked people to delete Uber. So, there you go. The next thing, we are committed to supporting the black community. As a starting point, we will use Uber Eats to promote black-owned restaurants while making it easier for you to support them with no delivery fees for the remainder of the year. Now, this is a nice gesture, but here's the problem. As we found out with another video I produced, Uber takes a lot more than just a delivery fee. Like, Uber, when it comes to all restaurants, not just black-owned restaurants, but all restaurants, take sometimes as much as 70% of the cost of the bill. So here's the thing. If you are using Uber Eats to buy from any restaurant, you're not really supporting that restaurant, because Uber, Grubhub, Postmates, DoorDash, all of them, they all take way more than their fair share. And them saying there's not going to be a delivery fee for those restaurants, that's a pittance. We're talking about like $1 they're not charging. But they're still charging you a fee unless you have the Uber Eats pass and you buy a certain amount of food. And they still charge other fees to these restaurants. So if Uber wanted to truly support these restaurants in the way that they're trying to make it sound like they are, they would just waive all the fees. Hey, you know what? We'll deliver your food and we won't take a fee for the rest of the year. That is us supporting you as the black community. But they're not going to do that. So actually, this is the one part of the email I should mention. This reads like a sales pitch. Because what they're trying to say right here is use Uber Eats to buy from black-owned restaurants. Heck, we'll probably even highlight them in the app. And you're going to do that. And yeah, they will waive the 50 cent to $2 delivery fee. But what they will also do, they will also charge a heck of a lot more for all those other fees, and in a sense, that is hurting the restaurant. So, unless Uber agrees to waive those fees, I don't believe it. Also, in the coming weeks, we will offer discounted rides to Black-owned small businesses who have been hard by the C virus to help with their recovery. Now, that's positive. Can't really argue too much about that one. The only thing I'm going to mention, you could potentially find yourself in some legal trouble. I'm just throwing it out there, but once businesses start giving perks and breaks and things to other people and other businesses based on the color of their skin, that is against the anti-discrimination laws. Right now, I don't think anyone's going to argue that, but depending on how long this goes, because we all have short attention spans, someone might actually criticize Uber for that. Like, well, why does this person get a break just because their skin color is this and we don't? That's going to become a problem for them later on down the road. Now, I'm not going to debate whether or not that's a good thing or a bad thing right now. I mean, tensions are high. I'm just saying this is what it is. Like, that does violate some laws. And you can like choose to do business with who you want. You can choose not to do business with whoever you want on a myriad of different things, but basing how you do business with people based on race, sexual orientation, or religious affiliation, those are all big no-nos. So that's probably going to hurt them for a little while. Now then, continuing. We are committed to making Uber a diverse and inclusive place for people of color to work and thrive. This is total horse donkey. And let me tell you why. And I think you all know why. Hair. Oh, my hair's so long. Sorry, folks. It's funny. It's windy, but it's also hot. Anyway, we know this is not true because of the way they treat the drivers. They I mean, granted, they are committed to Uber being diverse and inclusive place to work. I mean, we see that all the time. You see it with the Uber tubers out there. We have white people, black people, Latinos, and Asians, and yeah, we have all those people all doing Uber tuber videos, and a couple of them, find love in the work, but most of them are saying the very same thing, like underpaid, don't like the way we're treated. So the issue is not that Uber is a diverse place. It clearly is a diverse place, especially when it comes to the drivers. The issue is that Uber has never been committed to having a work environment where drivers could thrive. That's never been their goal. So, and yeah, anyway, let's continue. While we have more work to do, because you have to do that with everyone, we have tied our senior executive pay to measurable progress on our diversity goals and will continue to publish data on our workforce so the public can hold us accountable. Now, this is by far the oddest part of this whole email. It's like we have tied our senior executives' pay to measurable progress. Now they have a link to that. Let's see. The link goes to an article by HR Dive, and what is this? Okay, so basically, the way I'm reading this right now is that the executive pay is tied to making sure that Uber is a diverse workforce. And if they don't meet those diversity quotas, then they don't get a bonus or something. So, I've got mixed feelings about that. I always believe that that the person who's right for the job should get the job, but this is not a terrible policy either, because there's a lot of people who are qualified for these jobs who never even get the chance, and so initiatives like this do at least get their foot in the door. So, I mean, that's so basically, if they want their bonus and stuff, they have to hire so many black people to work for Uber. That's what I'm reading here anyway. Now, they also said they will continue to publish data on their workforce so the public can hold them accountable. Now, the last time they did this, that data was limited primarily to shareholders. So basically, you want that data, buy stock in the company, and you can see what it is. So I don't know what they're going to do with this data. Maybe they'll do like a press release or something like that. I don't know. But they're going to say they're going to continue to publish the data. Now, the final part here, and this made me laugh, we're also committed to expanding opportunities for drivers and delivery people, including through education opportunities and skills trainings. This doesn't happen. Yes, they do have programs with educational opportunities and skills training, but why do you think they aren't utilized very much? They aren't utilized very much because the cost to actually participating in them is way, way too high. It's way too high. And in fact, and most people, if you're driving for Uber, you're not making enough money to ever participate in these programs. You have to work for Uber more and more. You have to do a lot of crazy, insane hours just to survive. So, and yeah, hey, Dustin, nice for you to pimp your own. Anyway, whatever. So that's, yeah, Uber has these programs everywhere, and they've had them for a long time, but no one really uses them because you don't make enough money on Uber to ever partake in them. You just never do. So, anyway, that's the email. It totally reads like a PR spin. And again, I want to make it absolutely clear. I'm not saying that Uber is not allowed to support these causes. They absolutely are. And you know what? I'm okay with it. And I support these causes too. But I don't trust Uber to actually implement them. I think they're putting a pretty face on the whole thing. We've seen them make these promises before. But okay, you're forgiven, Dustin. I can't stay mad at you. We've seen Uber make these commitments before, and they've never followed through. And usually the entry to barrier is too high. And again, this is farther down the line, of course, but this might create some problems in the long run if Uber makes it easier for, minorities of any kind to get opportunities, where if you are not a particular minority, then you have a hard time getting them. Well, that means it could lead to discrimination lawsuits. Really, if Uber wants to be part of the solution, they can be part of the solution by frankly improving their product. They can just improve the lifestyle for their drivers altogether. They could just have better policies all around, and they can enforce those better policies. They can pay the drivers fairly. They can stop being sleazy behind the back card dealers. If they want to make Uber better for everyone, they just have to make better policy in general and stick with it. That's all they need to do. So, as far as I'm concerned, this email's not worth much. This email is not worth much. Now then, that's where I'm going to end. I see people are commenting, but they're talking back and forth to one another. So, anyway, we're going to leave the video here. Particularly because this one's like a long one, even without us doing the random talking. And so I do want some people to actually watch this. So, this isn't going to be the end of the conversation. There's going to be a lot more to talk about in long run. It might even be a podcast topic. Who knows? But while I appreciate the sentiment from all the companies that are sticking up for this injustice, I think most of them are writing these things because they're trying to make themselves look favorable to the consumer. And in Uber's case in particular, I don't believe they're going to do anything to help at all. I think in a couple months, maybe even a few weeks, to be honest, it's not going to, I don't think they're going to do anything. Now, it should be mentioned, because Dustin just brought it up, DoorDash also wrote an email, and we might do a later live stream, maybe not today, but maybe tomorrow, we will do a live stream about that email. And because I do agree that DoorDash had a much better email than Uber's did. I don't know if I've gotten one from Lyft yet, but we'll go over all these letters and read them, and I'll throw my commentary in there. Otherwise, I think the protests are still happening right now, so please be safe out there. Whether you are protesting, whether you are not protesting, be safe out there. And be kind to one another, flame responsibly, and we will talk to you later. Have a good one.